Hello, this is Dave, and welcome to Equities Story. I'm with the Wolf, and obviously this is just a general share advice as per the disclaimers on the website. And Wolf, really interesting last night. So the Dow and the Nasdaq came back absolutely beautifully in the last sort of half an hour. And what is it? Fake news?
Seems like it. The market's taking it like that. And excuse me about your enthusiasm, but I'm scared. So calm it down, please. But yeah, I mean, that was what a wild ride. And I think that's what we're going to probably be expecting over the next few weeks, Dave. It's going to be fairly volatile. But yeah, the markets, I think, saw the rush up in the last half an hour to an hour, which was unbelievable, really, when you look at how it transformed the markets. But yeah, we're not buying it, are we, today? So I think let's see what happens tomorrow. If this can be sustained, maybe if it's sustained tomorrow from the US markets, maybe we'll have a rally.
Yeah, definitely. We said we look like we're going to have a bounce, but the general thing is, we believe here, Equity Story, we're going a lot lower. So I'm just having a look at these markets, Wolf, and you know, we're down. Certainly on the Nasdaq, we're down so far about 10-15%. The general talk is about another 10 or 15%. Does that sort of make sense with you?
I think, look, when I look at the top end, so I'm looking at Microsofts, the Amazons, the Apples of the world. I think we need another 10% down, aside from them. So that's my sort of, because when you look at the numbers, they're still expensive relative to what they were previously before they sort of boom really took over, right, over the last 2 or 3 years. So there is definitely scope for a bit more give in the prices. So I'm expecting that those prices will come down.
In some ways, Wolf, you look on this on a sort of a monthly year, and it looks like we're going to end with a very ugly candle. We've only got sort of a few days towards the end of the month. You'd be really surprised if we don't come down at least another 10%.
Yeah, I would be. That's why, I'm thinking that for the moment, probably next couple of months, we are going to see a bit of volatility downward side, and maybe we'll have a bit of a bounce afterwards.
And the Dow hasn't really had a big enough shakedown yet. Obviously, I think it will follow I think the general sentiment will follow the Nasdaq, and certainly I think we're looking for a lot lower over the next month or two. So Wolf, in that environment, obviously short-term trading very difficult. Good to see. Certainly talking to a number of people. Some of the short-term traders are 100% cash. Some are 40-50% cash. Some of the emails we're getting, which is exactly great, right? And a lot of nice emails from people saying, Dave, you said January, February this would go lower, and we've been prepared for that. So thank you for that. Now, but there is news, and there are always opportunities, maybe, Wolf. I don't know. So let's have a look at some of the stories that came out today. And the first one is CDA.
Yeah.
Right. Now, technically, the saving grace is maybe around the old trend line. There's a little bit of support. But technically, it's still looking obviously a lot too. It's way too weak for really me to get interested in it, Wolf. But technically, fundamentally, give me your view of today's announcement.
Fundamentally, I'd say you've got no idea what you're talking about, technical guy. Fundamentally, you'd go look at the numbers. Right? If you didn't know anything about charts, you look at the falls from $18-19 to $8. And you look at today's announcement, you think to yourself, this market's gone absolutely nuts for really overselling this. They've got no idea what they're talking about. And they're a bunch of idiots. That's what you go, because the actual report was pretty good. Saying that's the current market we're in, right? There's a lot of volatility, a lot of FOMO, a lot of really short-term trading going on. And that's what's probably causing a lot of the volatility in a lot of stocks. I understand the come down, selling down expensive stocks, and back in the $18-19, yeah, you could classify it as expensive, no problems. But I think the market probably looked at CDA going, okay, well, it's expensive, their CEO is changing, growth is going to slow down, there are issues with supply chain, things. But that's been pretty much all alleviated now, right? They've changed the CEO. We know who he is. we've ticked that box. They've updated today. They're going to grow from about 20% top line, which is the revenue line. Between 10 and 20%, they're going to grow in FY22, the bottom line, from what I can read. And of course, they sort of addressed that, change the pages. Plus, the new businesses they acquired over the last couple of years, they've actually outperformed to their own standards. So all in all, when you look at it, you'd be going to yourself, I have to buy this. I have to buy this for the long term, Dave. So I'm conflicted in a way, right? Because obviously,
I mean, if I'm trying to give you some love on the charts, right? If you actually look on the monthly, it's right on the trend, right?
Okay.
And it's more or less held support there on that monthly, hasn't it? So, I mean, one would argue, and it needs to obviously hold above that 950 level by the end of the month. But one would argue it needs to do that.
Yeah, look, at least what I think it's happened with today's announcement, it's just put a lot of those doubts aside for the investors out there. So I'm hoping this is a genuine reversal of the downside now. It's going to be now at least sideways to upwards from here, right? Because you can see the market's going, well, hang on, I think we've overdone that sell-off, and we're looking at a bit better, especially when you look at the numbers, and that is it's trading on 16 times PE, which is now pretty good, and a 4.5% dividend deal, which is again, pretty attractive. So company that's growing 20% top line, 10 to 20% bottom line at 16 times, I think I'll take it, especially when there's a rotation from expensive tech stocks to some sort of value.
All right. So listen, for a long-term trader, they could have a look at this. It's not really what we did. The only danger I've got, Wolf, if these markets really come off strongly, obviously this could still go down. Everything gets sold, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
People look at their portfolio and they see I'm down 50% in this stock. I'm sort of holding up, and they tend to sell. But I mean, anyway, but it's interesting. So opportunity does knock on that stock sometime.
Yep.
Right, Wolf. Iluka. What do you make of their announcement?
I like it. The thing is what they said in that thing is that there's a very strong demand out of China, and Iluka is one of the top producers of rutile, zircon, ilmenite, so the mineral sands business, right? Globally, I think they've got a lot of pricing power as well. So for me, and they've got a little bit of now rare earths that they're talking about as well. So it's a really interesting business. It's how it's transforming itself. I've called it before. Long term, I've changed my mind on this. When I say I don't like long term to sort of be in stories that are in the mining space, but there are some exceptions to the rule. LYC is one of them at the moment. Probably BHP at the moment would be as well, which we called it as a no-brainer. And Iluka will be the third player in this situation.
All right. I mean, they're all holding above trend, so
you hold them pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, it's you can hold them, or everyone. It depends. I mean, I still think in this market, if I was making a profit, I'd be taking it.
Look, absolutely fair enough. It's a fair enough call to take a profit if you are, making great gains. Absolutely no problems whatsoever with that. But generally speaking, long-term holder, if you want to have that ride without doing too many changes around, then you're still holding on, because the dynamics of the industry they're in, it's definitely favorable for the moment for them. So you'd want to hold your winners as long as you can when you see that, even though there's a market crashing around you, and there's a moment you think I've got to sell everything. Maybe you can make a couple of exceptions just to see how it goes.
AX1 Wolf. Again, poor price action again today from another retailer.
Yeah, I think there's like 2 or 3 examples today, Dave. There was a Meyer as well, and there was also AX1, and there was a third one. I can't remember what the name was. So all 3 have come out and just pretty much the same commentary. The last probably 2 or 3 or 4 months have been great.
Yeah, Meyer's sort of held up a little bit, but I suppose it's
Super six anyway. It probably doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's on its knees anyway, isn't it? Really, I think what's the market cap? 40 million or
Uh,
something.
I think as long as I think that market expects we are dead, and if they come up, we're still alive, then the market rewards them.
All right, talk about being on your knees.
Yes.
Z1P and Sizzle.
Yes.
So, what's all this about? And can you put the whole merger into context for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So, look, now that APT has been taken over, and probably Z1P has now become the flagship bearer here in Australia. The only way I think the only way for them to keep growing and keep getting that market share and become the next, so to speak, after Payish, right, is to acquire something of a decent size. And as ZL sort of fits that bill. So it's almost like for me, still Hail Marys. They're throwing Hail Marys here, right? Entering all the different jurisdiction in Europe, in Asia, Middle East, you name it, right? They are trying everything possible to keep up that growth, to keep up that potential land grab, so to speak. And SZL is part of that landscape. So, and strategy, let's see what happens here. We don't know the details of it yet. They're obviously talking together to join forces. I think, generally speaking, it's a good move. There needs to be a merger and making one player much bigger than everyone else, right? That means it'll going to knock out everyone else out of here. So definitely a positive move. That's why the market's saying yes to this from both players, from Z1P and Sezzle.
Right.
But the market at the moment, BNPL, it's still not attractive. I mean, it's just not trending.
Yeah, it's not at all, is it?
No.
FMG.
Mm-hmm.
What's your opinion of today's announcement?
Look, it's the quarterly details pretty okayish, I suppose. We talked about yesterday. It's changing its stripe slowly. Becoming more of a green commodity player, right? Looking at hydrogen. Bought some F1 engineering firm yesterday. It's just moving down there, maybe battery storage and so on. Very interesting move. It's going to probably take 2, 3, 5 years maybe to play out. But, as long as iron ore stays fairly over 100, I think, it still should be okay. But it's going to be volatile. It's going to be volatile, right?
Yeah, and really, it's at the moment looks like maybe sideways coming down a little bit. Wolf,
yep.
Obviously, ICI.
Mm-hmm.
They had an announcement today. Wolf, technically it looks sideways, but company.
Yeah, okay. It's just an update on the business they're buying, and the business came out with a better than expected result. So it's a positive, of course. You can't say no. Is that business? When I say quality, it obviously makes sense for ICI to do the deal because they're by themselves. They're probably going to go nowhere, right? So they needed to expand the horizon. So they have. It's more of a trading stock for me. I still prefer PlaySide for a number of reasons, but ICI is trying to sort of replicate that path by acquiring instead of actually, doing it by themselves. So I prefer the PlaySide where, they're growing organically versus trying to acquire growth.
All right, Wolf, just lastly, PTB,
Mm-hmm.
It's a dividend stock you put on. It had a good announcement yesterday. It's obviously holding up very, very nicely.
Yeah, look, it was actually a very positive announcement. They say that the market that they're in at the moment, especially I think in Asia Pacific and US, is picking up. So it's strong demand for their services. So Dave, if I got this and we put it on what about 10 something, I think it was in a low ones. And now with 119, 120, I think this is going high. I look at the numbers, it's still trading on 10 times, 11 times.
Yeah. And
great dividends. Thank you very much. I'll take it.
Well,
buying these value stocks right now.
Oh, I think they're great. Those dividend stocks we put on like a week ago. You really, happy. Just go to sleep, come back in 6 months, and at least you got your 7.6% growth.
Yeah, and then they hope you outperform the market. So you might have small losses, but that dividend is probably going to hopefully count for a lot.
And Wolf, RZI, what's going on here? because obviously we like the story, but technically last 2 weeks it's been really hammered down with the market. We'd like, are we getting back into this as soon as we get some better price action?
Yeah, remember that the company's still good, still growing pretty well, and SWM have invested, taken a decent stake or chunk of the business. They're going to help them advertise. So from that point of view, I still think it's a good business. It's just the market at the moment is fairly taking no prisoners type market. So it's difficult to see those tech stocks really, going gangbusters. It's just a struggle street.
All right, so we're just going to recap today. Here at Equities Story, we're very sort of, firm on our beliefs, and we could be wrong. We're not God. I can say that a few times, but this market is going lower and a lot lower in the next few months. It really does rule out sort of short-term trading, which obviously we do like. But it certainly doesn't mean you can't pick up some bargains. And for that long-term investor, for that person who's willing to buy a stock,
take a risk,
not look at it, and understand that if the markets do come off, it could come back down to $8 or even $6. But are happy to hold this long-term. I'll give it a year, maybe 2 years. Around this sort of level, CDA could be some interesting.
Dave, can I just use the infamous words, just like I did with BHP?
What? No. Is this a no-brainer?
Yes.
All right, John. I thought you'd never.
No-brainer. I just think when you put all these things that I spoke about right at the start, it should trade higher than it is over time, right? So I expected now with this announcement to at least settle a lot of nerves, and that Dave, gold is starting to look a bit better, right? So maybe if gold starting to look a bit better, and maybe there's a bit more shine this next 6 to 12 months for gold, then you definitely got to add to positivity for CDA.
All right, this is last time Wolf called a no-brainer. It was when BHP was here. He had to put up with 2 months of ribbing. Eventually got pulled. So please, he's called this a no-brainer. Forget 2 months. Give this isn't BHP. Give him 6 months before you give him hell, everyone.
But use that line of defense here. So right. So if it goes maybe, I don't know, 880, maybe just a little bit, 850, something like that. If it goes below that, maybe you have to have a look at it. But we'll talk about it anyway, see what it looks like.
All right. On that note, no-brainer. All right, here we go again. All right, thanks, Wolfie.
Cheers.
Take care. Bye-bye.